All right, so yes, my name is Will Cunningham. Thank you all so much for joining me. And so, I just have one question to ask each of you guys, and I know you all have experienced this at some point in your lives. Who here thinks that, whether you're in high school now or were in high school back in the day, that we got too much homework? Right? Like, when we get home from school, we all gotta, play sports, do other extracurriculars, maybe just hang out with friends and have some leisure time to yourself. And all of a sudden, bang, you get 2 to 3 hours of homework every night. And as you come up with a plan to do all this homework, you still find ways to somehow cram everything into the last hour possible in a repeating cycle until you eventually feel like this. And I get it. We've all felt this same way back when we were in school. Now, when some of us talk about these experiences, we may have a little chuckle like most of you guys just did, or maybe think about it as nothing greater than a thorn in the side you can easily pull out. But for me, this was a lot more of a serious issue. See, not only did I hate the homework I was given, I always loved to complain about it. I would always give my teachers a hard time about what I was given, and it eventually got to the point where I actually believed that they were trying to target me and make my life miserable based off the homework I was given. And it was with this constant cycle of negative thinking and overreactive conspiracy theories that I began to feel like a victim. And I embraced what we call the victim mentality. Now, for those of you who don't really know what the victim mentality is, basically, according to Merriam-Webster, it's the belief that bad things will always happen to you. More specifically, it's the fact or the belief that those things, those bad things, are the cause of other people's actions or other circumstances around you, regardless of whether this is actually true. And one major misconception that I have to clear is that having a victim mentality does not mean that you're a victim. Being a victim comes from actual events that you may experience. And the victim mentality comes from how you handle those things. And the difference between these two is very difficult to distinguish because I think everyone here has gone through something very hard, whether it be, getting too much homework, or something worse, like a physical injury that hinders how much you can do, the loss of a loved one, getting abused or bullied as a kid. And some of you may be thinking, Will, being sad and, blaming others for this seems justified. Because in these situations, they're not exactly good, but there's a problem with thinking like the victim in these situations. When you think like a victim, you constantly swirl yourself around the situation. It almost becomes a part of you in a sense. To put it short, when you think and act like a victim, the problem you have never actually goes away, which we can all safely say it's not a good thing. Going back to my experience with dealing with homework and constantly complaining, I was always miserable throughout high school. I remember times I would constantly cry on the floor, just sobbing, like, why am I getting so much work? Why are they doing this? And throughout all this time, I was missing some very basic facts. Not only was I more than capable of doing what I was given, but the fact that if I had decided to actually make the adjustments that I could have easily made, I would have actually been a straight A student, which is strange. Now, if you guys are wondering, thinking about your scenarios, and if you are thinking about whether you struggle with the victim mentality yourself, here are 6 major indicators that I have up here. And some of these things may come off as pretty strong, pretty harsh, like, feeling powerless, or constantly seeking validity, or others to support you. But what these things do is they constantly allow you to indulge in the fact that, you're suffering. Like you constantly see yourself as suffering, sad, and anguish, and none of these things are good things that you want to sustain. I'm thinking about a real life scenario right now that we can all say we've been victimized by. COVID. The disease that's taken the lives of over 500,000 Americans. It's caused everything to lock down. We've all been affected by this in some way, whether it be not being able to see someone we truly love, or to go to that one place that we always love to go to. And many people have taken this to a sense as like, why is this happening to me? Why is the world doing this to me? And this has caused both depression and suicide rates to go through the roof over the past year. People have fallen into a state of victim mentality that is hurting them and those around them. And so the question here lies, how do we get out of this cycle of negative thinking? And the answer to this question lies within the story of a man named John Stockdale. Now, John Stockdale was a veteran of the Navy who fought in the Vietnam War, and he was captured by the Vietnamese and placed into a prisoner of war camp. Now, if any of you guys know anything about these prisoner of war camps, it's that the people who were there were treated awfully. They were rarely fed, constantly tortured, in Stockdale's case over 20 times, and unable to communicate with the outside world. So if anyone in the world was a victim of something, it was Stockdale. But Stockdale never saw himself as a victim. He talks about his experience in a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And in this, he describes his experience. Hang on, the book's really hard to hold with one hand. As one that would be the defining event in his life, which in retrospect, he would not trade. I want you to think about that for a second. Why would he take constantly being tortured, constantly underfed, and not being able to see or communicate with his family as a good event that he would never trade for the world? See, Stockdale knew something. He knew that he was in a bad place. And he knew that no matter what he did, no matter what he said, he wasn't going to get out. Matter of fact, he spent 8 years of his life in that camp. I honestly couldn't even imagine spending a month, let's be honest here. But see, while Stockdale knew that he wasn't getting out, he also mentions that he never lost hope in the situation, that he always knew that in the end he would eventually get out. That despite the brutal reality of the circumstances, he knew that things were going to get better. And he summarizes this in what we call the Stockpile Paradox, which is, you must never confuse the faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts, but then in your mind, brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Now, I want you guys to think about something you may be going through today, whether it be something with COVID, school, work, whatever it may be. And think about how you can apply this way of thinking. What if, instead of constantly reminding ourselves that we're sad, that we're being oppressed, that things are hard, that while we take in the fact that, yeah, things can suck right now, we're not in the best situation at the moment, but that we take hope for the future. And I know some people like to confuse disregarding the fact that you may be a victim as, oh, I'm sucking it up, and sucking up is toxic. And yes, it is, because it takes away the fact that you have to have hope, that you have to believe in the fact that things will get better. And here's the truth, guys. You all are much more than anything that has come in your way. And no matter what happens, no matter what each of you are going through, you will succeed, you will see better days, and you will prevail in the end. Thank you.